What if I told you the world's most important factories don't make cars, don't make airplanes, and don't even make money directly? They make tiny pieces of silicon, smaller than your fingernail, yet governments are willing to spend hundreds of billions of dollars protecting them. One company on the island of Taiwan produces over 90% of the world's most advanced chips. If that single company went dark for even a few months, global electronics production would stall, car factories would shut down, and trillions of dollars in market value would evaporate almost overnight. So the question isn't whether these factories matter. Everyone already knows they matter. The real question is this: what does it actually cost to own one? Not to invest in one, not to buy stock in one, to actually build, staff, run, and profit from one of these buildings. By the end of this video, you'll understand why a semiconductor factory is simultaneously one of the most profitable business models ever invented, and one of the most terrifying financial gambles a company can make. Stick around, because the numbers get stranger the deeper we go. Here's something most people never stop to think about. Your phone has a chip. Your car has over 1,000 of them. Every AI server, every satellite, every missile guidance system, every credit card terminal, every pacemaker, they all trace back to the same starting point, a thin, circular slice of silicon. Oil built the 20th century. Silicon is building the 21st. And unlike oil, you can't just drill for it. You have to manufacture it, atom by atom, with a level of precision that makes landing a rocket look easy. That's why, when a drought hit Taiwan a few years back, cutting water supplies to chip plants, car manufacturers around the world were forced to idle assembly lines. Not because they ran out of steel or rubber, because they ran out of chips smaller than a grain of rice. This is why nations treat chip factories the way they used to treat oil fields and nuclear arsenals. Whoever controls advanced chip production controls the pace of artificial intelligence, controls military technology, and controls economic leverage over every other country on Earth. So now, imagine you wanted to own one of these buildings. Where would you even begin? You'd start with land, but not just any land. Chip factories need flat, stable ground, away from major seismic fault lines, close to a reliable power grid, and near a massive, uninterrupted source of ultra-clean water. A single advanced fab can burn through several million gallons of water a day, more than a small city. Then comes construction, and this is where people's jaws usually drop. A modern, leading-edge fab costs somewhere between $10 and $20 billion to build, not to operate, just to build. That's more expensive than most professional sports stadiums, luxury hotel chains, and Hollywood movie franchises combined. Why so expensive? Because the heart of the factory, the clean room, has to be cleaner than a hospital operating theatre by a factor of thousands. A single dust particle, invisible to the human eye, can destroy a chip mid-production. So engineers build rooms with air filtration systems that cycle the entire volume of air multiple times per minute, stripping out particles far smaller than a human hair. Then there's the water. Ordinary tap water is actually far too dirty for chip making, loaded with minerals and microorganisms. Factories build entire on-site purification plants to strip water down to a molecular level of purity you'd never want to drink, because it's so aggressively pure it would leach minerals straight out of your body. And then, power. These factories need a steady, uninterrupted supply of electricity, often equivalent to what a small country consumes. Some plants require dedicated substations just to keep the lights, and more importantly, the machines, running without so much as a flicker. Add it all up, and you get one of the most expensive types of buildings on the planet, built before a single product has even entered the door. But here's the twist. The building itself isn't even the most expensive part. Walk into the actual production floor, and you'll find machines that look more like spacecraft engines than industrial equipment. The star of the show is something called an EUV lithography machine, short for extreme ultraviolet lithography. Here's what it does, in plain terms. It uses light with an incredibly short wavelength to etch circuit patterns onto silicon wafers, patterns so small that billions of transistors fit onto a chip the size of your thumbnail. Only one company on Earth makes these machines, A single unit costs somewhere north of $150 million. The newest generation costs closer to $400 million for one machine. And a modern fab needs dozens of them, alongside hundreds of other pieces of specialized equipment for etching, deposition, and inspection. To put that in perspective, one advanced lithography machine costs more than an Airbus A350 jetliner. And unlike a plane, this machine can't fly anywhere. It takes multiple cargo planes and weeks of assembly just to install a single unit inside the factory. The precision required is almost impossible to comprehend. These machines work at scales measured in nanometers, a few atoms wide. If a lithography machine were the size of a football field, the precision it operates at would be equivalent to hitting a target smaller than a strand of DNA. This is why so few companies on Earth can even attempt to build these chips. It's not a lack of ambition, it's that the machinery required doesn't just cost money. It requires decades of accumulated engineering knowledge that can't simply be bought. But even with the building and the machines, you still need something else, the raw materials to actually make a chip. At the center of every chip is a silicon wafer, sliced from a cylindrical ingot of ultra-pure silicon, grown slowly from molten material until it forms a nearly flawless crystal structure. But silicon alone doesn't make a chip. You need specialty gases, some so reactive they can only be transported in specially designed containers. You need rare chemicals used in tiny, precise quantities during the etching process. You need copper for wiring, gold for certain connectors, and a collection of rare earth elements that are mined in only a handful of countries on Earth. This is where things get scary from a business perspective. A modern chip factory might depend on suppliers spread across a dozen countries, each providing one small piece of a massively complex puzzle. If a single supplier of one obscure chemical shuts down, an entire multi-billion-dollar factory can grind to a halt. This actually happened. A fire at one Japanese chemical plant a few years back, producing a specialized resin used in chip making, caused ripples through the global semiconductor supply chain for months. One fire, one factory, global consequences. This is the paradox of the semiconductor industry. It is simultaneously one of the most advanced industries humanity has ever built and one of the most fragile, because it depends on so many things going right in so many different places at exactly the same time. Machines don't run themselves. Behind every fab is an army of extraordinarily specialized professionals. Process engineers who design and refine the manufacturing steps often earn well into six figures, sometimes exceeding $200,000 a year at senior levels. Material scientists who develop and test the chemical compounds used in production command similar salaries. Equipment technicians who maintain those $100 million machines typically earn anywhere from $70,000 to $120,000 annually, depending on experience and location. Then there are the AI and data specialists, increasingly hired to optimize production lines using predictive analytics, often pulling salaries that rival top tech companies. And at the top, factory directors and senior operations executives can earn well over $500,000 a year, factoring in bonuses and stock compensation. Now multiply that across a workforce that can range from a few thousand to over 20,000 employees at the largest facilities. Suddenly, payroll alone becomes a staggering monthly obligation, often running into the tens of millions of dollars before a single chip has shipped. And this workforce isn't easily replaceable. Training a process engineer to competently run advanced lithography equipment can take years. This is why entire regions, like Taiwan's Hsinchu Science Park, have built decades-long ecosystems of specialized talent that other countries are still struggling to replicate. Here's where the economics get genuinely brutal. Even after the factory is built and staffed, the money doesn't stop flowing out. Electricity bills alone can run into the tens of millions of dollars per month for a large fab, given the constant power draw of lithography machines, air filtration, and cooling systems operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Water treatment and recycling systems require constant maintenance. Specialty gases and chemicals need to be continuously restocked, some of them extraordinarily expensive per liter. The machines themselves require regular servicing contracts, often running into the millions annually per unit, because a malfunctioning lithography machine can halt an entire production line. Then add software licensing for the design and simulation tools used to develop next-generation chips, cybersecurity systems to protect against espionage and sabotage, insurance premiums that reflect the sheer value of the assets inside the building, and of course, payroll. When you tally it all up, a large advanced fab can burn through hundreds of millions of dollars a month in operating costs alone, before a single chip generates a cent of revenue. This is the part most people never see. From the outside, chip companies look like they're printing money. From the inside, they're running one of the most capital-intensive survival games in modern business. So how do they possibly make this work? The answer is demand so enormous, it's almost hard to comprehend. Every smartphone maker on Earth needs chips. Every car manufacturer, especially as vehicles become rolling computers, needs chips. Cloud computing giants, racing to build out AI infrastructure, need chips by the millions. Military contractors need specialized, hardened chips for radar, guidance systems, and communications. This is why leading chip manufacturers report annual revenues in the tens of billions of dollars. The world's largest dedicated chip manufacturer alone generates over $70 billion a year in revenue, driven by a client list that includes nearly every major technology company on the planet. And here's the fascinating part. The demand curve is only getting steeper. The explosion of artificial intelligence has created a new category of customer entirely. Companies desperate for the most advanced chips to train massive AI models, willing to pay premium prices and wait in years-long order queues just to secure production capacity. But revenue is not the same thing as profit. And this is where the real story gets interesting. A chip factory can report tens of billions in annual revenue and still operate on razor-thin margins in certain years, depending on where the technology cycle sits. Gross margins for leading-edge foundries typically range from the high 40s to over 50%, genuinely excellent by manufacturing standards. But operating margins tell a more complicated story once you factor in the constant, relentless capital expenditure required to stay competitive. Because here's the brutal truth about this industry. Today's cutting-edge factory becomes tomorrow's obsolete facility. The technology moves so fast that companies must constantly reinvest tens of billions of dollars into new fabs and new equipment just to maintain their position, let alone grow it. This creates a strange financial reality. A company can generate enormous free cash flow and simultaneously spend nearly all of it, plus additional borrowed capital, just building the next generation of factories. Depreciation on billion-dollar equipment happens fast, because that equipment becomes technologically outdated within just a handful of years. This is why the semiconductor industry has some of the highest capital expenditure to revenue ratios of any major industry on Earth. Leading foundries routinely reinvest 30 to 40% of their annual revenue directly back into new facilities and equipment. Imagine an industry where nearly half of every dollar earned gets immediately funneled back into the next building. That's not a business, that's a treadmill that never stops. Now let's talk about risk, because this is where fortunes have been lost. Technology obsolescence is the quiet killer. Spend $20 billion building a state-of-the-art fab, and within 5 to 7 years, a competitor's newer facility can make your factory look outdated, forcing prices down and margins to compress. Global recessions hit particularly hard because chip demand is deeply tied to consumer electronics and automotive spending, the first things people cut back on when money gets tight. Then there's geopolitics. Trade restrictions between major economies can instantly cut off access to critical equipment or customers. Export controls on advanced lithography machines have already reshaped where and how factories can even be built. Natural disasters are a constant threat too. Many of the world's most advanced fabs sit in earthquake-prone regions. A moderate earthquake can knock production offline for days or weeks, and given that these factories run 24/7, every hour of downtime can cost millions of dollars. Power outages, even brief ones, can destroy entire batches of chips mid-production because the manufacturing process is so sensitive to even momentary interruptions. And increasingly, cyber attacks pose a serious threat, given how much of the modern fab runs on interconnected software systems, controlling everything from machine calibration to inventory management. Any one of these risks, on its own, can cost a company billions of dollars in a single incident. And chip companies have to manage all of them, simultaneously, forever. This is precisely why governments around the world have started throwing unprecedented amounts of money at this industry. The United States passed legislation offering tens of billions of dollars in subsidies to encourage domestic chip manufacturing. The European Union followed with its own multi-billion euro package. Countries across Asia have poured similar sums into expanding their own domestic production. Why? Because whoever controls advanced chip manufacturing effectively controls the pace of the artificial intelligence race, the strength of a nation's military technology, and its independence from foreign supply chains during a crisis. This is no longer just a business consideration. It's a national security calculation. Losing access to advanced chips could cripple a country's ability to build next-generation weapon systems, maintain competitive AI research, or even keep basic modern infrastructure running. This is why a single factory announcement can trigger diplomatic negotiations at the highest levels of government, and why some of these projects receive billions of dollars in government incentives before construction even begins. So here's a thought experiment. Let's say a billionaire decided to skip the traditional tech industry entirely and just build their own advanced chip factory from scratch. The math gets discouraging fast. You're looking at $10 to $20 billion just for construction. Add billions more for the specialized equipment. Factor in years, often 5 to 7, before the facility is even fully operational and producing chips at a competitive yield rate. And yield, the percentage of chips that actually come out functional, is its own brutal challenge. Early production runs at a new fab often produce disappointing yields, sometimes below 50%, meaning half the chips produced are simply unusable, representing pure financial loss. Then there's the talent problem. You can't just hire your way into decades of accumulated manufacturing expertise. The handful of companies that dominate this industry got there through generations of engineering knowledge that isn't for sale at any price. This is precisely why even extraordinarily wealthy individuals and companies have struggled to break into advanced chip manufacturing without massive government backing. It's not simply a question of capital. It's a question of time, talent, and an ecosystem that took decades to build and can't be replicated overnight, no matter how large your bank account is. So, after everything we've covered, is owning a semiconductor factory one of the greatest business models ever created, or one of the riskiest investments on Earth? The honest answer is both at the same time. It is a business with genuinely extraordinary demand, a product the entire modern world cannot function without, and profit margins that, in good years, rival some of the most lucrative industries on the planet. But it's also a business that demands constant, brutal reinvestment, exposes you to geopolitical risk beyond your control, and can be rendered obsolete by a competitor's newer factory within a matter of years. It rewards patience, discipline, and an almost unreasonable tolerance for risk. It punishes hesitation, underinvestment, and bad timing more severely than almost any other industry on Earth. The next time you hold your smartphone, remember, hidden inside is one of the most complicated products humanity has ever created. Behind every tiny chip lies billions of dollars, years of engineering, and an industry powerful enough to shape the future of civilization itself.